special guest who's a dear friend of Audrey's, and he follows her in perfect order. I wanted to tell you that I've said it before, but I will repeat it again. You're entering a very difficult fashion market, totally changed. And what I try to do for you is to bring different avenues, different possibilities that when you graduate, you will be able to get jobs that are interesting, exciting, and good for your future. That's my purpose here, okay? To bring you the best and the ones that will result in good jobs. And I'm very proud to say many of the students call me after many, many years, and they are successful. And that really is what my position here is all about. And today we have another young, wonderful person, where 100 years ago, brothers Michael and Nicholas' great-grandmother, Mrs. Lane Bryant, founded the full fashion department store called Lane Bryant. How many of you have heard of Lane Bryant? Raise your hand. Well, you will meet today the great-grandson of the founder of Lane Bryant. She said, never ask women to conform their figures to fashion. Our guest today said they were inspired by their great-grandmother to continue the family tradition. And that's another element that's very good, because today we're living in cold-blooded corporate worlds who gobble up one company after another. There's no heart, there's no soul in it. They destroy it for the sake of making more profits, I know. And this is another thing I want to bring to your attention, that Michael is continuing the family tradition with his brother Nicholas. They were inspired, and they continue by having created the FTF, Fashion to Figure. They establish plus-size fashions that have a fashion look and not make you look like you're, not cool or not chic. Michael's love is jazz, which also should give you a feeling that he has a soul, because anyone who loves jazz has to be into feeling things, and I love that. And Nicholas was a buyer at Saks and received a BA at Lehigh University. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because I can't waste time standing here talking to you when he's anxious to meet you all. But remember that Audrey Smaltz is their consultant. Thank you. And she loves him.
I actually was accused earlier today by the architect of our stores of actually not having a soul, just for clarity, Alice. But basically we have a chain of plus-size women's apparel stores that we started about 4 years ago, and we are definitely continuing the tradition of our family. But we really are trying to create an opportunity for ourselves to have a business in a market that we thought really could use another chain of stores that injects contemporary fashion, great service, and price sensitivity in a growing market in America where people have traditionally been served by I think the nicest way you could put it is less than fashionable businesses, which are an afterthought. We know that well because, frankly, our family's business, Lane Bryant, did things well for a really long time, but today is actually an example of the business problem that we're trying to fix with our new company, Fashion to Figure. So I thought what I would do today is just sort of tell you that I can really relate to where you are, because I was in graduate school, also like literally sitting where you were, listening to speakers and trying to figure out my future, and in a very specialized field. I was at Harvard Business School studying in business after having worked on Wall Street, and you know, it was a very focused curriculum, just like you guys have. It was a vocational school, just like your school. You know, I learned a ton, I worked hard, I made a lot of friends, but as it got towards the end, I don't know how many of you are graduating this year, or a bunch, so that's a lot. So I literally was where you are when it came time to, you know, almost be graduating. I was like, now what? You know, now what happens? And I think basically, you know, what I decided to do was create my own opportunity with a business, which I actually think there's tremendous opportunity to do, more so in the field that you guys are pursuing, both retail, fashion, merchandising, marketing, et cetera, than there is in the quote-unquote generic fashion, generic business world, which we were studying at Harvard. So we created our own opportunity, and what I thought I would do today is kind of talk to you. I'm sure some of you have thought of maybe creating some of your own concepts, or you have ideas of your own about you know, niche marketing ideas or design ideas or retail company type ideas. And I thought I would take you through kind of what we went through so that you could evaluate for yourself how to create your own opportunity, because there really is a lot of consolidation. There's a lot of consolidation with the retail and fashion industry, as Alice said. So the traditional, you know, the traditional channels of you know, going into retail merchandising, buying. I mean, if you look at a company like Federated Department Stores, where there was, you know, 3 to 5 buying programs for you guys to go into, there's now 1. So clearly there's an opportunity for less people, and that's just an example of the industry, so of what's happening in the industry. So, you know, in responding to trends like that in my own case, I actually thought I didn't really have much to lose by creating our own opportunity. I think the other thing to note in your industry is, you know, while there really is a lot of consolidation on the traditional side, you know, in the department stores and, you know, in fashion merchandising in general, you know, all the exciting stuff happening, and nobody knows it better than you guys, is actually happening from the people that are doing their own thing. People that actually wear, or that were where you are, and actually took it upon themselves to create a new concept. I mean, if you look at, you know, the Scoop chain of stores, or the Intermix chain of stores, or designers that are getting a lot of attention now, like Zach Posen, or, you know, Yigal Azrouel, or, you know, the excitement in the fashion and retail world is actually coming from the people that are doing things on their own. So in your position, I wouldn't be so quick to look to the traditional route, and hopefully today I can help you look at what you kind of need to go through when you're evaluating your own opportunity. The first thing you want to do if you're thinking about your own idea is obviously find a market or a landscape or an opportunity where there's a lot of consumer demand, there's a lot of money being spent on something, and you basically see an opportunity that's obvious to many audiences. You want to go towards an opportunity or try to identify an area that, you know, whether you're a creative person or a financial person or an operational person or whomever, it's pretty obvious that there's, you know, definitely an opportunity for something to be done. In our case, the plus size market, you know, jumped out at us. I mean, when I was in graduate school, I was pretty amazed to learn that when my family actually sold Lane Bryant, my dad sold Lane Bryant out of our family in the 1980s. And it was amazing to me that in this last 20 or 30 years of, you know, increased nutritional consciousness and physical fitness consciousness, that the number of large-size women in America, as defined by women who wear above size 12 dress, has actually grown to 60 million women in America, and you know, up from 38 million when we exited Lane Bryant. So I was amazed that, you know, there was this opportunity, and obviously it's pretty obvious to everybody, you know, American consumption, American obesity, lots of other elements of the large size market are pretty obvious to anybody that knows about retail or not. So that's what we looked at in terms of our market opportunity and evaluating an idea. So the first thing you want to do is really try to find an area that's filled with opportunity. After you come to a general area, with an idea or a concept, a market opportunity, you really want to try to find some inconsistency or something that doesn't make sense to consumers today, or some dislocation is what it would be called, or you want to try to figure out how to make something better, or find an area that doesn't make sense and you want to figure it out. In our case, after we came to realizing that there was a tremendous opportunity in plus-size women's apparel, it didn't take long for us to see that, at a mall, any mall in America, a woman that wears below a size 12 dress has limitless numbers of stores to choose from. In the large size market, they have 3, and our new company is actually now one of them, or 3 or 4, depending upon how you count them. So, if you're size 12 and you're walking in a mall in America, you can go to Express, H&M, BB, Esprit, Banana Republic, Gap, Old Navy, Wet Seal, Ann Taylor, J. Crew, and on and on and on and on and on. And if you wear above size 12 and you don't really feel like going to a department store, you can go to Lane Bryant, you can go to the Avenue stores, or you can go to Torrid. And a lot of malls don't even have all 3 of those stores in it. So for us, within this great opportunity of large sizes, we found that there was a serious problem. There was a lack of stores for a growing number of people that actually are demanding better service and to have more stores. The next thing you want to do, obviously, is find experience. If you have a concept, or if you come to a market opportunity and you see some area that you think is ripe for change and you develop an idea with it, go find people that can help take your idea and make it into reality. In my case, having worked in the business world and on Wall Street, it was really easy for me to literally just basically trick my brother into coming in to work with me, who had 17 years of retailing experience in his background in all areas of retail, buying, store operations, et cetera. And then we have another partner who was a very old friend of ours, who was a merchant at Saks Fifth Avenue, that I'll come to later in the presentation, because she's actually looking for some interns. She's a terrific mentor for anybody on the merchandising side. We're definitely looking for people to help her and go with her into the market as she buys our goods. But basically, if you've come up with some sort of idea in a market opportunity, you want to go find the experience that you need to take your idea and make it into reality. There's a lot of people, in my case, like my brother and old friends, who will work with you, and then there's a lot of people that really won't, work with you. But there's people that'll answer the phone and give you advice. And what we did, and what I would suggest anybody that's evaluating an opportunity for themselves, what I would suggest you do is formalize a group of advisors. Any business concept that you come up with in fashion and retailing and design or anything, you guys are trained, I think most of you, as designers and maybe some marketers. Whatever your concept is, or however focused it is, you're going to deal with areas that you'll be in situations and dealing with areas that you never imagined you'd be dealing with your very focused concept. For example, in our case, I really didn't understand the level of detail that I'd have to go into in terms of construction, or the media business, or the internet business, or any of these other areas which really weren't at the top of or the forefront of my mind when I was coming up with a new type of large size women's apparel store. So what I would do, if you're trying to create your own opportunity, is formalize a group of advisors that can give you advice on every area that you'll come up against as you try to pursue your opportunity. So the next thing you want to do after finding the opportunity, the inconsistency, the experience, and the advisors is you really want to crystallize a concept. In our case, Fashion and Figure is a chain of stores now that basically speaks to women that wear above a size 12, because we have 100 different brands of contemporary fashion in a price-sensitive environment with all the service and respect that this consumer does not get in any other store. The Lane Bryants of the world, the Avenue stores of the world, all the chains that have traditionally served our customer are all vertically integrated. And what that means is that they all make their own product. They put their own label in the product, so the consumer is basically forced to buy only their clothes. That's not the case in our store. We're like a Scoop or an Intermix, or with a bit of a boutique feel, in that a customer, like I say, can see 100 different brands of contemporary fashion at terrific prices. We're about 20%, our prices are about 15 to 20% less than the consumer is used to seeing in the traditional places that she goes. And our store environment has been created from the ground up with only this consumer in mind, so that there's any sort of accommodations that are made in our store for this consumer, and I can get into specifics later. But that was how we crystallized our concept. One thing you want to do after you've come to your idea is you want to look at the way the industry or the market that you're addressing, the way that it traditionally operates. In our case, it was one thing to come up with an idea that a traditionally underserved customer wanted to see a lot of different fashion brands in one location. But it was another thing entirely to see if that was possible to do within the industry. For us, we knew and we identified the fact that in the year, I think in the year 2000, the number of manufacturers on the continental US alone making large size product was 2,000. In 1980, it was like 5. So for us, we looked at the way that the industry traditionally operated, and we basically discovered that our idea was viable, that it actually could work based on the way that industry traditionally operates. So once you create your concept and crystallize what your strategy or what you want to do to create this inconsistency you found, you want to make certain that the way that the industry or the market that you're going into works will accommodate what you want to do in the industry. So, like I say, we have an array of fashion choices in our store that people haven't seen other places, and that works in our industry because the manufacturers in our industry have far exceeded the number of retailers that are serving our consumers. We don't manufacture yet. We're about to do that. And incidentally, that is an area where we could also use interns, and we're looking for people to help us with some design stuff as we're about to do some private label projects. And the big thing for us is that because there's such inefficiency in this market, because there's so many more manufacturers than there are retailers, we can get product and fashion and have it on our store floor within 24 hours, which really allows us to deliver a level of fashion and trends to our consumer that she's not used to seeing anyplace else. So the next thing that we did, which I would suggest you try to do, is if you've come up with a market, if you've come up with an inconsistency and a concept to fix that inconsistency, and you've gotten the team together and all this, and your idea is starting to work, try to take some unique angle to it, because any good idea that anybody has begs replication. In other words, if you come up with a good concept, don't be naive to think that other people, either in long-established companies or, in your case, maybe the kids at Parsons or one of these other schools, is also thinking of the same sort of ideas that you have. Because if it's a good idea, multiple people are going to have it. And as a result, try to create some unique angle with regard to your concept. In our case, I don't, and our company doesn't believe that we're going to be the only contemporary boutique for women that wear above size 12, for long, and there's a tremendous amount of them actually that are independently operated boutiques that exist locally. But what we wanted to do was say nobody's going to have a store environment that shows more respect and accommodates our consumer with a type of service that's better than ours. So we have stylists in our store, not salespeople, that actually work one-on-one with our customers, that basically show them a level of attention and respect that they don't get other places. So that was our unique angle. The other thing that you want to do, and this is a real like business school type graph, but you want to see where you fit within the market. Your concept, your new approach, you basically want to see of the market you've chosen, the people who traditionally serve that market, how do they compare to you? How do they compare? What are the differences between how they deliver their service or product to the consumer? What's the difference between how they do it and how you're suggesting it should be done with your concept? You need to keep an eye on others because they're the competition, but knowing your place within the market will help you figure out how to serve your customers better. And if your idea is really good and it really starts to take off, the other people in the industry are going to respond to you, and they're going to react to exactly what you're doing. And so keeping an eye on how others in the industry are operating will help you react to the way that they react to you and your concept, and that's very important. So like Alice was saying, we have a family background at what we're doing, and for us, this is where our passion for what we do comes into play. I think passion is incredibly important to bring to whatever you're doing. Whether you're going to go into a merchandising job, a marketing job, change your career entirely to some other area, design or whatever it is. Unless you really love to some degree or really are passionate about what you're doing, you're ultimately not going to be as successful as people achieving real levels of excellence in that industry. And I think it's because there's always a lot of talented people. There's always a lot of skilled people that have put in the work in an industry or trying to compete for business space. But people that really have a passion for it are gonna be better than people who are simply just trying to work their way through it as some means to an end. So in our case, our family history, my great-grandmother's story, is one that really was inspiring to us growing up, my brother and me personally, but it really is what we try to deliver on our store floor. My great-grandmother was an immigrant to America. In 1899, when she was a widow, she could hardly speak English. Obviously, that was not a job-friendly time for women. And she basically was made, and she had a one-year-old child as a widow that she really was trying to support and was having a great deal of difficulty trying to make ends meet. She got a sewing machine and was just doing local sewing for people in her neighborhood. And one day a woman came in and said, "I'm going to be pregnant and I really love the dresses that you make. Can you please try to figure something out that'll work for me?" And she basically figured out that she could take a piece of elastic and put it in the waistband of that middle dress right there, is what she called the number 5 tea gown dress. And she really invented the maternity dress in 1899. In 1899, pregnant women were not supposed to leave their home. It was it was not socially acceptable at the turn of the last century to be seen out in public when you were pregnant. So what she created and what she did was not only innovative, but she really, as a single woman that had facing very hard circumstances, she basically created a market. She created the special size market, long before there was any talk of special sizes in the U.S. And she had a successful business doing it long before women could vote. So that was always a tremendously inspiring story for us. And we think that story is one that a lot of our customers at Fashion to Figure can relate to. There's a lot of women in today's society who are hard at work. They're single parents, and they're feeling as if that they're against circumstances and that are coming down on them. And what we try to provide at Fashion to Figure is about is a half hour or that period of time that they come into our stores, we try to provide that level of peace and kind of remind them of what my great-grandmother's story was all about, which is don't ever lose hope. Keep going, keep achieving, you're doing great. You know, we're here for you at Fashion to Figure because the sky's the limit if you keep working hard. These are things that are from our family archives I thought you guys would like as design students. This on the right was, this advertisement on the right, it actually took my great-grandmother 5 years to convince the New York Herald Tribune to run this advertisement because they refused to run ads about clothing for pregnant women. That's how socially unacceptable it was. So in her case, you know, thinking about a job and creating an opportunity for herself and all this stuff, obviously persistence and hard work is critical. This is, these, for the design students, these are designs from the turn of the last century. And I just thought you'd find it interesting to see what things looked like at that time before there really was any special size market or plus size market or anything. And these are some of my great-grandmother's designs. So that's really how we got here. You know, how I got from being essentially in a chair like yours to having my own retail chain with my brother, and we have outside investors, and you know, we found our market opportunity, we created our concept, we got a management team, we figured out economically how our situation and our store growth and building stores could work, and we really feel like we're poised for some immediate interesting opportunities with our company. These are our 3 stores. We have 3 stores now. We're actually going up to 5 by the end of this year, by the end of 2007. And these are in different malls. And there's also an online store, fashiontofigure.com, which hopefully you'll check out. Anybody that obviously goes through or does or creates their own company or concept is going to go through a lot, and we've been through a lot. I mean, we've created a business and raised money from outside investors. We opened 3 stores. We've acquired 15,000 purchasing customers at our stores over the last 2 years that have given us their name, address, and phone number. We're doing an additional 2 stores at the end of this year, and we think that we're poised to become hopefully what's going to be the preeminent chain serving this consumer. This is where the proof is really in the pudding. I mean, any good concept, any idea is really judged best by the people that idea or that company serves. And in our case, we're thrilled. We get reassurance all the time from our consumers that the idea we had, that the concept we had, actually means something to them and resonates with our consumers. But if you have a concept of your own, remember, it's the customer that's really going to be the ultimate arbiter and judge of whether or not your idea is good, whether you're doing well executing that idea, whether you have the right elements in place to capitalize on your idea. And anybody I don't know if any of the design students or marketing people are interested in our niche, but our consumer at Fashion to Figure, our segment of the large size market is actually a younger, contemporary woman who is very at peace with herself, has always shopped for large sizes and doesn't feel any stigma going into a large size store, but really is just seeking seeking fashion that she's not been able to have before, and gets really excited by coming into our store and seeing the contemporary fashion at the prices that we offer it. So that's really where our specialty and our niche is. This is my shameless self-promotion to you all. You can get going in the, if your concept gets going, you can get written about in papers that hopefully you guys know well, which is women's wear. And you can have a lot of fun with media coverage, which obviously leads to cheap marketing. And really, just to sum up, I mean, what we've learned creating our own business is, be very, very quick to identify what you don't know and go find people that can help you, and bring to you the elements that you're not an expert on. Like I was saying about customers, the customers can fire you every day. I mean, you can, and that's one of the things about the retail business and the fashion business, which is why I really admire that you guys at such a young age are so focused on this industry. This is a season and season out, week to week, Saturday to Saturday, in our case at the mall business, where if you're doing well one Saturday, it doesn't mean anything for the next Saturday. You have to keep delivering for the customer. The customer can fire you at any given day. If you have bad fashions on your floor or in your show, or if your prices go up one day and you realize it was a mistake, it's too late. The customer will fire you, and you really rarely get second chances. If you're starting your own concept or want to capitalize, on some opportunity that you're considering, I think watching your ego is really important, because when you start to discuss your idea with people that matter in terms of making your idea a reality, you're going to hear all sorts of criticisms. There's people that are going to say they don't understand what you're doing. They don't think what you're doing is possible. They've been in the industry you want to go into for years and years and years, and it's just not going to work the way that you've said it. Watch your ego, because if you're too fragile, and if you don't have persistence, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about, then you really are not going to get anywhere. You have to listen to people's criticisms, take them in, adapt them, modify what you're doing, but at the same time, you have to be persistent and be true to your conviction. If innovation and startup companies and doing new things, if it was easy, everybody would do it. So if you want to be the one to actually create something special, you have to be persistent, and you have to check your ego at the door. You guys know better than I do, especially on the design side. It's all in the details. I mean, it's one thing to come up with an idea that says, put contemporary fashion in a nice store, and consumers that have rarely had that experience will come in and appreciate that. But it's another thing to judge at what height should you put your fixture, what piece should be displayed next to what item, what type of accessories does the consumer who buys this or that want. Everything in the retail industry, which is what I can speak to, but it's also probably true in the fashion industry and the design industry, everything is in the details. It's very, very detail-oriented and meticulous type stuff. Again, bring passion to it. Love what you do, because it's not going to be easy. We've dealt with challenges and stressful situations that I could never have foreseen when I was in grad school coming up with this concept. And unless we really had a strong love to really get this concept in the market, we wouldn't have been able to do it. Don't worry about getting everything right. And this is probably true across anybody in this room that goes to their first job after this at a company, that wants to start their own thing, that has a job with doing design at an existing firm. In anything you're doing, don't worry about getting everything right. Your first couple of jobs or what have you. Worry more about making certain that you fix it if it's wrong quickly. Your first couple of jobs, or your first steps in your startup company, or your concept, or your design, or your line, or whatever it is you're considering doing in this room, they may not be the right steps, but it's important to take those steps. And what's more important is to figure out, if those steps were wrong, how you can fix them very, very fast. And then, manage your stress. Anything that you love doing is going to create a lot of stress. I mean, you guys probably, during exam time or any time at school, know a lot about stress, and it's true in the business world too. I mean, anything that you love, or any situation that you find yourself in that you care about, is going to cause you a lot of stress, and you need to manage that stress. And then, this is just an adage that I live by, which is, it's better to be lucky than smart. I mean, you can think about every different scenario, every different situation. You can think about every nuance of a business, and trust me, I'm up all night long thinking about our business in the large size market, in full fashion. But unless you get lucky, it doesn't matter if you're that smart. So very often it's better to be lucky than smart. This is hopefully information a lot of you guys will take down. We really need a lot of help. We're a startup, and our business We need somebody to help our merchant go in the market, do design stuff. If anybody checks out our website, or even if you just see by the presentation I showed you, we're significantly challenged with regard to graphic design. If somebody, is in that with visual display, those are all areas that we're looking for. That is part of the reason I'm excited to be here to see you guys, because I could probably learn a lot from what you guys have studied and your backgrounds and personal stories. Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to do one last thing, which is everybody can get a discount for anyone at our at our store. If you want to pass it on to anybody, this is our web store, so anybody or anybody can feel free to take a discount. That coupon code there is 15% off. So there you go. Yeah, happy to take questions. Hi. Yeah.
I just had two quick questions.
Sure.
You said that approximately 60 million U.S. women are 12 size or larger.
Yeah.
Do you know with regard to percentage of overall population how many women that is? Like is it 10% or?
It's you have to be interesting when you bring up an interesting issue when you're evaluating any sort of. Can you hear me okay if I'm not on the microphone? Is that all right? But if you're looking for some sort of market opportunity, there's a lot of industry sort of standard journals and people that create numbers and statistics and all this stuff. You're probably best to take their statistics with a grain of salt and say, well, if what they say is this, and I take half of what they say, does that still mean there's a good opportunity? So 60 million American women is noted by a group in Long Island called the NPD group. And that's about 30% of the U.S. population. But the way they calculate that, it's 30% of the U.S. women's population. 1 in 3 women, they say, wears a above size 12 dress. But, their methodology for saying that or for stating that number and the way they calculate that number is not known to me. So I could quote you 5 industry stats. The real answer is, though, it's a lot. It's enough for a market.
Is anybody looking at this market for teenagers or kids?
Do you want me to use this out? I mean, it's okay. Well, for up there you go. Yeah, there is a company. I don't know if that's. There's a company called Torrid, which is a division of a retailer called Hot Topic, which is a really innovative retailer. I think they started in the early 90s. They're addressing more of the teen market. There are junior plus brands that are manufacturing to that segment of the market, but there's no retailer that's explicitly focused on teens. We have a lot of customers that come in that are 18, that are in high school, and it's great for us. We were scared about exclusively focusing on that market because it tends to be a really fickle, really fast changing, with trends type customer. So, hey. Yeah.
Someone criticized vertical type companies because you said they're too big and
Sure.
So what triggered F2F to
Well,
go that way?
we don't think about it as being either or. We're probably never going to do more than 20% of the merchandise mix on our store floors would ever be what we would call private label or manufactured by us. When you when you can manufacture some of your stuff, in our case, like some of our basic items or accessories or anything that helps blend our merchandise mix better, there's obviously an opportunity to have a higher margin product where you're not dependent upon a third party to enable you to meet the trend that your customer seeks. So in our case, I'm trying to think, I know that in our store right now, at least it's a trend in our market, there's a lot of capris and capri jeans for spring. We have about 3 to 5 different brands and manufacturers providing that for us. But, we're dependent upon them for how many units each of them has available, the styles that they think are going to be resonant this season. If you manufacture some of your own, you can still go to them and provide the array of product for your customer, which is really important. But you can fill that in with some basic standard items that you're going to make a better margin on, that are actually going to be wanted by your consumer, based on the fact that you're the retailer in front of the consumer all day, and as the manufacturer, they're not. So. We represent, we represent a lot of other labels. Some of the labels that we have may mean something to you guys, in terms of whether you know them, and some may not. Some of the brands we carry are like Gloria Vanderbilt, Hot Kiss, Harvey Bernard. Those are sort of names that you'd know, but there's also a lot of names like, Mai Tai Clothing and Joy Mark and Appraisal Plus, and certain things that mean something to our customer that aren't necessarily known from an industry-wide basis. So, sure. Hi.
I was also wondering, have you tried talking to some of the more well-known retailers, to some of the other retailers that
the sum of the parts might be better than if either of you tried to do it alone. So we have evaluated that. In our case, we haven't found a great partner yet, but that's absolutely a great idea. Just the advisors? It's really scientific. It was really scientific in our case. Anybody who would take my phone call. Literally. It was anybody that I, going through anyone's Rolodex I could, trying to figure out how to get anybody that in any industry with any expertise and sell them on this really hot concept that we had a lot of passion and conviction for, and say, do you want to be involved? It's not a big commitment. We just want to list you on a piece of paper, and we want you to take our phone calls and answer our emails. Literally, we tried to go for anybody that could teach us something about an area that our business was going to confront. It's very, very, very different. Board of directors, very, very different than board of advisors. Board of directors, you're absolutely right, usually owns a lot of the company. They're tasked to represent the owners of the company, to steer the company directly. They have a hand in management decisions and stuff. Advisors, in our case, is literally just door openers for us. Our advisors, in some cases, our advisors have become investors of ours. So, which was the best of both worlds. But you want it up, Alice? Louder? Oh. Yeah. Right. With Lazard. Actually, Ava and I actually worked at the same bank. And yeah, she's dynamite. You guys will really like her. She's created a luxury catalog for herself that's terrific, and you'll enjoy hearing her story of how she started her business. So. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have a question up there? Hey. Oops. Sorry. I was in grad school at the time, so I went to the library at the school that I was at, which I would encourage you to do. But the internet is obviously an awesome library. There's specific resources for different things, you know, industry statistics versus what your competitors do. If you're in, that's why I sequentially tried to take you through sort of how you come to an idea, because if you look at a market, you'll see a group of people already serving that market. And a lot of times they'll have information publicly available for you to look through so that you can see what they do, how they do it, who they do it with, you know, where they do it. I mean, all the things that may be informative to help guide you. But it is a little bit of a web-like process in that, you know, it leads you in a couple different directions, and you have to know how to sort of stop and manage your time to get the answers you need without going on like a goose chase, you know? So, but the internet, I mean, burning the midnight oil on the internet is like what I do, as boring as that sounds. Did anybody else have a question? Hey.
Does your customer service policy include full-figured women on your sales staff? And if so, how important is that?
It's an interesting question, because if you actually just hire a certain composite of a person, that's discrimination. You know, I mean, in any way. And definitely, in our case, all we look for is qualified people that have experience and empathy with our customer. And that can be anyone. We have men that work on our store floor. We have smaller, you know, size 6 women. We have, you know, a lot of full-figured women. And that, in our case, in any case, we've gotten customer emails about, you know, the range of people that can have good service. And that's what I meant about bringing passion to it. You know, anybody will have a passion for something, and if you're operating at something and you don't, you'll lose. So, someone else? Hey. That's a really interesting question that a lot of you know, innovative companies go through. It's usually more of an issue with like software or technology or like science companies, and it may come into play with some of you guys that are designers, because there's like a patented or trademarked design or something like that. In our case, we thought like the best defense would be just to kind of be a little conceited about it and say, hey, you know, what we're doing is not rocket science. Anybody else can come up with the idea, but no one's going to be able to do it as good as we will, and no one's going to be able to do it with the passion that we have. But usually you can trademark something, and it's a good conversation to have with a lawyer, a trademark lawyer, a copyright lawyer. An intellectual property lawyer actually is the umbrella that would cover all those areas. And if you're in design and you have a, you know, like, for example, the undergarments segment in our space is where a lot of actual design innovation, you know, for bras and things like that for our consumer. So Lane Bryant, as an example, their Cacique line of large sizes is like a $300 million division of their company. They have trademarked and patented designs in that area. But there's a lot of people that I've seen in startups that are trying to do, you know, designs for full-figured bras and things like that. They've trademarked and done some, you know, some of that stuff. So it's an intellectual property lawyer. So, you know, hey. From your mouth to God's ears. Right. Well, first thing is, my partner Frances does all the buying. I mean, I had a slide on the management and going to get the experience that you don't have. She was 17 years at Saks Fifth Avenue, a women's sportswear buyer. She knew this inside and out, and basically came to us and does all the buying. The men's side of the business is a completely different business. Our best customers come to our store once a week, once every 2 weeks to have a great experience. Men, typically, customarily, don't like shopping. You know, and especially large size guys. You know, I need a blazer because the holidays are here, let me get it, and I'm out of here, and I'm not coming back for another 8 months. We actually have on our board of advisors the CEO of the most successful big and tall men's business in America. They have 400 stores, casual male, big and tall. His customer comes to his store an average of 1.8 times a year. Our customer comes to our store that many times every 3 weeks. So it's a big difference, and I think you got to figure out how to do one thing well before you overexpand, and I'm not that smart, so, hey. Are you from either area? Oh, yeah, are you? Manhattan is like a market unto itself. It doesn't indicate any trend about what the rest of America would be like. So when you speak to financial people and they want to know that your idea or what you're doing can be rolled out, especially with retail, like it's really important to demonstrate to somebody you can have tons of stores all over the place. If you go to them and say, I've got a store on, 34th and 5th Avenue, they sit there and say to themselves, what other place in America has actually got that much traffic with that many people spending that much money there? And the answer is, there's no place like that. So we chose these enclosed malls right outside the city to demonstrate more what America would be like so that our concept could be, our concept would have credibility at being able to be rolled out. So that's why we chose those malls. And the Palisades malls we chose specifically because it's it's big and has all sorts of different segments of people. And we wanted to learn as we put the concept in the market which segment was going to come to our store most. So, and then once we learned, we are focusing more on malls that serve that segment. So that's why we chose. Anyone else?
Michael, I was curious, listening to this is very exciting. You also carry, you mentioned the bra, intimate apparel, all the different accessories.
Intimate apparel, Alice, was a great example of when you do something bad, fix it quickly. We actually had an opportunity to carry that product, and we did, and it was terrible. The customers really, Lane Bryant has a terrific segment or operation in that end of the market, and our stuff really didn't do well at all. So we got out of it really quickly, but we found a new resource that we may go back in it. We'll see. We'll see. Does anybody else have anything? If anybody wants to come up after, I'll be here for a few minutes, and I have cards if you want them, or discount coupons or whatever, but thanks for listening, and good luck with your stuff.